Welcome back to the final part of the Arma Hobby P-39, and this is my little concoction for the zinc chromate green. So I'd painted the interior cockpit green and I didn't clean out the airbrush. I just added yellow and then one drop, literally just one, of the tyre black, which is very, or was it NATO black, which is very dark grey, and you get this perfect zinc chromate colour. Very colourful undercarriage bits and pieces. So the zinc chromate for the main gear bays and the nosewheel bay, and then the inside of the doors and the undercarriage legs are in the bell green, which is what I should have done the cockpit in. Out with the Starship filth again and thinned down into a wash consistency, and this is just liberally applied everywhere, all over the yellow green, the zinc chromate green. Atom paints, absolutely superb for paintbrushing, as you can see. So I'm just touching in with the brush here, just the sort of inlets. There will be a bit of overspray on there, but you know, at least there's going to be no bare plastic. And then black for the sort of insert bit right here, slightly thinned with water, and we can just touch that in and just use a finger to wipe away any excess, and it will just stay in the recess, and you'll get that real sort of deep hollow look. That part can just get glued in. That acts as a little bit of a spar, setting the dihedral, can't even speak, dihedral. And on with the top wing. And you can see the sort of depth effect you'll get by painting those sort of inlets black. Now you'll note there, just on the inside, there's a little bit of damage, a bit missing, and that'll be me. I would have broken that off. It wasn't a mismold, and I fixed that later with a bit of epoxy filler, just sculpted with a wet cocktail stick, and then given a little bit of a sanding. So repair that later. But you can see the depth there that you get by painting the inside black. This is one of my favourite tools in my toolbox. This is the RB Productions panel line scriber, specifically designed for panel lines to go over joins like fuselages and wing leading edges, as you can see here. It's really thin, but the teeth only go down to a certain depth, so you'll never get it too deep. And then once I've done the initial sort of bit of sawing, if you like, I can come out with the Tamiya scriber, which is very fine and sharp. A little bit of a swipe with the sanding sponge, and then a bit of cement over the top just to melt any sort of final bits away, and there we go, lovely. Now you will notice that the whole airframe is riveted. I did that off camera. I did that last year, but never got around to building the model till now. And certain areas I don't rivet as at the time. I'll wait until I've done the sort of seams, and then I'll do the rivets. You'll see me do that on the fuselage a bit later as well. Just marked in red here are some panels and vents and things that aren't required for this version. So using the Ammo black super glue, we'll just touch that in. Let it dry, because I don't want any pinholes. I'll let it dry for about half an hour, and then I'll go in with some Flory sanding sticks. Sadly now discontinued, but his supplier put the prices way up, so it just wasn't worth his while, which is a real shame because they're superb. But we'll just go in and just being very, very careful not to go over the panel lines and the already riveted detail, and we'll just take out those unnecessary panels. Right, now we can start gluing things together. So the cockpit, you would have seen in the previous video in part 1, a dry fit is literally a friction fit. It's almost, you don't need glue, but obviously I did use glue. This little nub in here was kind of interfering. There is a little recess in the join, but it's not quite big enough, and I just found it easier just to get rid of that. It's not needed at all, if I'm honest. It's held in place because I've already glued it. And then we can just go in with a dry fit, and just to make sure everything fits and all the gaps close up. And it's a beautiful fit, the fuselage. Black superglue is my cement of choice for fuselage teams, and I've got the ammo superglue here with these applicator tips that I just got off, I think it was Amazon or eBay. They're really cheap, and I'll do it in sections. So starting with the nose first. You do have a bit of working time with this stuff. It is the slow dry, and then we can just hold that together, and then once that is cured, we can go down the back end, just prising it apart so we can get the applicator in, and we'll just run a bead of glue all the way down the seam. I've already done the top seam as well, and then when we just apply pressure and squeeze, then the excess will just ooze out. Just spreading it along with the tip, just making sure it's all in there, and then just for a bit of belt and braces, I'm just adding just a bead along the seam. So just squeezing out a little bit and then spreading it with the tip of the, I don't know what it is, PTFE or something. These are the ammo sanding sticks. This is 320 grit with a bit of water, and just very lightly sanding. And then going in with the 1200 just to polish away the scratches, feeling with the finger, and then we'll just work our way around the model, just get rid of some of the dust and stuff. Right, here's that tool again, the RB Productions panel line saw. I don't know what I'd do without this thing. Well, I do know what I'd do. I'd use other saws, but it wouldn't be as good. So just going over the seam and then just dragging that trumpeter scriber. This scriber's been in quite a few different companies' ranges over the years. I know Revell did it as well at some point. So once that's been sanded, just brush away as much dust as you can, and then just going in with some liquid cement over the top. This is the ammo stuff. I do like the ammo brush, it's just very, very precise. Now there are these sort of fastener things around these panels, so I just went in with this MDC punch just to restore those, and ended up doing the whole model, which was a right pain. Arma Hobby are renowned for their engineering innovations. One-piece tailplane, on it goes. Looks fantastic. Notice the door is on, and the nose insert is also on as well, just glued in. Fin goes on. Once that's done, the main event, the wing to fuselage, the main bit. On it goes, clicks into place. Fit is beautiful. All over the kit, the fit is absolutely beautiful. Going in with that applicator brush with the MIG ammo, giving the bottle a shake there because I do need to top it up. We'll get a new one. Just squeezing a little bit of pressure there. It just pushes it apart ever so slightly. So you will see the Swedish clamps will come out in just a second. So I'm not flooding the joint at all, just enough glue for just what's required. And then out with the Swedish blue clamps, and down they go. And when that's all done, you've got to be careful with that the cockpit sort of roll cage thing that's sticking up, so don't squeeze too hard. But once that's down, we can go and glue the rest of the seam. Again, fit was beautiful, and once it was dry, literally a couple of seconds swipe with a sanding stick and you'd never know there was a join there. Absolutely brilliant. Tamiya-esque. I didn't like the replication of the fabric texture on the control surfaces. Just the kind of these sort of quite sharp strips. So proper thick coat of Mr. Surfacer Black went down, and then sanded, just sort of cleaning out, restoring the trim tabs there, and as you'll see, much better. The one-piece cockpit canopy going on, and you'll see here that there's a bit of a kind of seesaw thing going on. It's probably because of the top of the door, so I could have, I guess, sanded down the top of the door just a little bit, but I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to end up with any gaps or anything like that, because the fit was beautiful. So I ended up gluing the windscreen on, as you can see, using the very thin cement there. And then what I'll do is clamp that, and then I actually waited overnight. And then when it's dry, we can clamp the rear part, knowing full well that the front part, there you can just see the gap there at the back, knowing full well that the front part is all bonded. And we can go in now and just clamp the rear part, and again glue all the seams. Again, round the door, just being very careful, and that is why that brush is superb. Little gap at the front. This is Mr. Perfect Plastic Putty Deluxe. Sorry, not Mr. Deluxe Perfect Plastic Putty, which is acrylic. Just put it in, quick wipe, filled. Easy. The instructions call for the gun ports here to be filled in. I'm wondering if that's the Airacobra Mark 1 or the D version. So I just stretched and sprue, used the sort of tips, super glued them in place, cut them off, sanded, done. Literally 10-15 minutes work, no more than that. Rudder going in, and you can see there the canopy's masked, and that's pretty much it, built, ready for paint. Now the exciting bit, the painting. First of all, on with the interior colour. I didn't have any interior masks, but actually I think because of the arrangement, you see there, I've just put the door in, the other door. That door's going to be open on the final model, but it just clicks into place. It's held in with friction. I just went in with the interior green. Now for a primer. Did I need to use a primer? I'm not sure. Now I was going to use masks on this, and on the last kit, which was the Arma Hobby P-39 I used some very old Mr. Finishing Surfacer, I think it was, and yeah, it was rubbish as a primer. All the tape just pulled it up. So I was a bit nervous about using this, but actually it worked a treat. Not MRP this time. Bit of Mr. Colour for the neutral grey underneath. Nice contrast, as you can see, with the Mr. Surfacer. So just going along with the panel lines first, picking out some of the panels, and then just doing some mottling over the top. You can see just some sponge there masking the wheel wells, and you can see that mottled effect. Then the blending coat, so we'll add a bit of white to it, lighten things up. A little bit more mottling, a little bit more blending. Want a nice worn effect. Top side, Olive Drab 41 from MRP. This is the dark one, so it's too dark, but I'm going to use this as a kind of pre-shade thing. Didn't bother masking the fuselage there. Obviously masked the tailplanes, but not the fuselage. Wanted a soft edge, just like the real thing. So did that freehand. You can see I've removed the end of the airbrush, and I'm just going to follow the contours and do the demarcation. Now this olive drab is too dark, but you'll see how I'm going to treat that interfrestically, as Blackadder once said. So similar vein to the underside, going round over the panel lines and then doing a mottling effect, a bit more solid on some of the panel lines. You can see that is too dark, but it is mottled, but we are going to sort that out right now. RLM 81, I've written on it because I spilt thinner all over the bloody label. But RLM 81 from MRP is very similar to Olive Drab. It sits somewhere in between this Olive Drab 41 and the standard USAC or USAF Olive Drab. Going in with some brown tones now. So Olive Drab, when it fades, it does fade, not frayed, fade to a browny tone. So I'm just using a bit of dark earth here just to go in. Now we're going in with some highlights and some fading, just using this dark or dark earth color, which is a very sort of red brown, and just starting the fading process. And you can see the effect it's having already. It's lightening up the whole model, but we're keeping some of that dark olive drab for some of the low lights, maybe some paint touch-ups, something like that. And you can see that's looking really nicely weathered, and it's got that sort of browny tinge. Back in with the 41 now, darkening up some of the panel lines, doing a little bit more mottling. And it might look a little bit exaggerated now, but we're going to have varnishes, weathering over the top. It's going to blend everything. Bit of RLM 79, again just going in with that sort of brown theme. Doing some more sort of extreme fading. Now for the markings and the fun bit. Well, I say fun bit, this is the fun bit. This is the masks made by a friend of the channel, Nige. So before I had my silhouette cutter, otherwise I would have done it myself. So this is the, well, I don't know what it says. If anyone there knows a bit of Russian, then let me know what this means. But you see no lifting of any paint, which was a massive relief, it has to be said, after the last model. Very carefully pulling the inner bits away. Right, light blue now. So this particular outfit had light blue numbers, spinner and fin cap. And then off with the masking, which is, I really enjoy removing masking, but I'm always kind of holding my breath, almost, hoping that it's worked a treat. No slogan on the other side. And you can see there on that close-up, that extreme kind of paint fading. Yes, it is exaggerated, but as I said, the weathering is going to blend everything together. Right, decals. Who'd have thought? On with the ammo setting solution. These are Tech Mod decals. Massive fan of Tech Mod, I really am. Arma Hobby outsourced their decals to Tech Mod. So if you built any Arma Hobby kit and you've used the kit decals, you'll know all about them. Now they can be a bit grabby, especially on a gloss surface, and yes, this has had a unnecessary gloss coat, and then the setter over the top. So we do that first, and when it's pretty much dry, so about an hour later, we can go in with a worn scalpel blade. So this isn't brand new or ultra sharp, and the idea is not to cut the decal. It's just to push it in, and then the sole, and again this is ammo, can go over the top, and we can let that sit. Now you can see some masking there on the wing walkways. I forgot to do this. I should have done that before I started decaling, but you know, I forgot. So they were all masked off and then painted. They are on the decal sheet, but yeah, I prefer to spray them. And the wing walkways as well, which are really thin. They're going to be red, so they're just having a white undercoat. And here goes the red. Can bung that down. And the moment of truth, off comes all the masking. And I was really pleased. No touch-ups required. And that worked a treat. I was really pleased with how that came out. Once all the masking's been done on the top, we can go in with the stars on the wings. Again, this is a blunt blade. It's not that sharp. Now the trick is to do this when it's not too soft. If it's too soft, you are going to tear the decal. So when it's, like I say, pretty much dry, I've left it kind of for an hour, and then I'm just going to hit it with the Mark Fit Strong now. I know how well that worked on the instrument panel, and you can see there it's picked out all the rivets, all the panel lines. Really pleased. The satin varnish of choice is VMS, and you can see what a beautiful effect that does. That flattens everything down, but it's got this kind of, it's matte but it's smooth, and there's a bit of sheen, just like the real thing. Absolutely superb stuff, but it can be a little bit fragile unless you leave it. And I left it 24 hours to properly cure. Decal film? What decal film? Okay, back out with the Starship Filth, and this time not a sludge wash over the gloss. This time I wanted to do a pin wash, but over the satin. And the reason for that is I just wanted to stain the paintwork a little bit more. So you'll see that it doesn't kind of run as well in the sort of capillary action sort of stakes. It does work, but you can see I'm having to put a lot more in, and you can see the sort of staining and the big blobs everywhere. But don't worry, we're going to sort that out. Smaller brush, dampen with a bit of thinner, and we can just tidy up the mess really. The excess wash, it's some of it is removed, some of it is blended. It is oils, so it will be you will be able to manipulate it for quite some time. And you can see sort of some tapping motions and some sort of wiping motions, and then when I'm wiping I'm kind of blending as well. And just blending it into the overall paintwork, and this technique works really well, like I say, over a matte or satin finish. Did the underside as well. Starship Filth again. Some heavier staining around the middle. Now obviously on the P-39 the engine is in the middle, and these are the sort of some of the vents and things, radiator vents. So I thought, let's not do some gunge and grime and oil and all that kind of malarkey too far forward. We'll do it all sort of where around these vents, around the middle. So a bit of black oil brusher as well. I've used some fresh engine oil effects as well. And splattering, really useful technique this. So this is using the wash, a little bit thicker actually than the neat wash. And we can flick that all over the place, and then just go in with a dry brush and blend everything in really. And it gives a really nice patina. Now for dust effects. So I'm modelling this aeroplane in the summer, and I wanted to do some dust effects. Using the oil brusher, just not applied with the oil brusher brush, but with a normal brush. And then we'll go in and we'll blend that in with a brush moistened. Actually I thought it was a bit too subtle, so I did go in with the oil brusher brush. and we'll splurge that where I want it, and then again using the damp brush we can blend that in, and it gives a really nice subtle effect actually. We don't want it too dusty, but we do want that representation of dust. Not just over the walkways, a little bit on the airframe here and there. Exhaust staining now. This is a mix of Tamiya black and red brown. So that's the initial phase. We can use the same mixture, just take the end cap off and add to the grime underneath. And then we can add some buff to the mix and sort of just spray that inside the darker stain. So a few vertical strokes as well, doing it over the exhausts. This stuff's brilliant. Green stuff chrome. I think it's like alcohol based or something, and it's absolutely brilliant for chrome. Just dab it on with the brush, obviously tiny little oleo there, but you can see, look how shiny that looks. Absolutely brilliant. Those are the resin wheels, by the way. Brass in again. Right, more dust obviously around the undercarriage, and you saw on the previous section there the tread for the wheels, and this wash just flows beautifully into that tread. Not forgetting the underside of the wings. I did a little bit on the tailplane as well. You can see how dirty the fuel tank is. That's been added. See the holes there? That was just where the cocktail sticks were mounted for painting. But you can see how dusty the undercarriage looks. These are the 3D printed brassing gun barrels. Absolutely amazing, these. If you're going to buy one thing, buy these. Painted black and then given a dry brush with Ammo dry brusher, the gunmetal. And then the nose cap just pops on, and that's exactly the amount of nose weight needed now. It does struggle without the spinner and prop on actually, and you can see it just sits on the undercarriage nicely. Now the final bits of detail, pitot probe goes on, open door goes on, that's very fragile, and that's it. That is the end of the build. So I really hope you enjoyed that, and I'll leave you with some pictures, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers, bye bye.